It's about 7:17 p.m. We're here in the Selectmen's Meeting Room in Town Hall. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast by WACA, and we thank them for that. The main item for business tonight is an approval not required plan for the Rail Transit District. And so we will jump right into that. For people who've been playing along at home, this is the portion of the Rail Transit District that the town is acquiring at the end of the month. And in order to do that, we have to add some new property lines to carve out the portion that is being donated to the YMCA next week, as well as the portion that is going to be the solar farm, which I believe the town is not acquiring. So this plan adds some new lot lines, and since it doesn't add new roads and it meets zoning, it's simply a matter of us saying, yes, this does not require a subdivision approval, and we sign off on it. Usually we are legally required to sign off on them unless there's some reason not to. But this one is also of particular interest to the town. So with that introduction, we have a big map in our folders of the area. And you can see down by West Union Street, there's some other existing lots. There's one with the Irish Family Limited Partnership where the Dunkin' Donuts is. There's the Skipton Pet Lodge. So that's actually outside of the RTD, and then right next to that is a new Lot 3A. That is the land that's going to go to the YMCA. And then there is parcel 3C and 3D, and those are where the solar farm, the two solar farm portions are going to be. And I believe all of the rest of that there's also, I also see a lot 3B.
Yeah, up top.
Yeah. I believe that's where some of the access for the solar is coming in. So anyway, this carves up into several different areas so that the town can acquire what the town has agreed to acquire. Usually when these come to us, the question I always ask the planning director, who is running away. Are you getting the image for people watching at home?
Yeah, we'd have to put it on tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So if people watching the reruns, hopefully get a good view of the map. So the question with an A&R that I always ask the planning director is, if we had some reason that we wanted to say no to this, would we have any legal basis for doing so? Usually the answer is no. I just want to make it clear.
I would like to tell you no, but technically the petitioner was notified that we were reviewing this, and their failure to attend is sufficient grounds for the board to refuse to act on it. But
okay, we have normally told people that they don't need to show up for A&Rs.
Right, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the plan itself, there's no legal basis for saying there's something deficient.
No,
they're creating something that they're not supposed to through the A&R process.
Right. No,
okay.
It's been reviewed by town council, and there's also an email in your
okay.
folder from the town manager as well.
I have a question about this.
Go ahead.
Probably unrelated a little bit to the subdivision, but does this map show us the entirety of the land that the town is acquiring? And I know the answer to that is no, because in the middle of this parcel is the solar array piece, which is continued to be owned by.
It shows the entirety of what the town is acquiring plus additional land.
Okay.
It does not show what's on the other side of the MBTA road because the town is not acquiring that.
Got
And
it.
so there's no
Okay.
change to that.
Got it.
That's good, people. So which, we're acquiring the numbered parcels or the remaining land?
I think what's listed as remaining land is what the town is acquiring.
Got it. Makes sense.
So are there any other questions from the board on this? With that said, is there a motion to approve and endorse this plan?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 5-0. We now have some signing to do. Before we do that, one other item on our agenda is sign certificate of approval for site plan review modification 50 Megunko Road.
Yes.
So if we're gonna take a stop to sign things, we should do both of those together, I would think, would be easier. So let's take a look at that. It's in tab 6. I believe this was emailed out to the board earlier, so some people may have had a chance to review it. You know, we talked about this at our previous meeting, and it was a pretty straightforward modification of the site plan. The only things that we had concern about were under the jurisdiction of other boards with the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission. And so, we approved it and with the intention of signing the decision tonight. Are there any comments on the draft decision?
I wasn't here, so I don't sign it.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be appropriate.
Take one minute. There was one, there was one outstanding item that was gonna go back to the Conservation Commission, I believe.
Right, so they need to go back to talk about the relocation of the salt bin, and so
Is that identified as a contingency here, that this
Yeah.
approval is contingent upon the approval?
Yep, so B.
Okay.
Of the decision section, the modified certificate of approval shall not take effect until all required permits and necessary approvals from conservation and health departments are obtained by the applicant. I mean, that's sort of standard language, but I can put something more
No, it's fine.
specific in.
Nope, that's
Yeah.
fine, just,
Okay.
that works, I just remembered that one outstanding issue. Is D in line with the revised, requirements that we most recently put through town meeting?
I believe so. It's from our application.
Okay.
All right. I think it would be appropriate to have a motion to sign the decision as written.
I make a motion to, sorry,
He said so moved,
I didn't hear, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking.
to sign the motion.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes 5-0.
Sorry, Phil.
Or
Or
4-0.
are there any
Abstain.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
4-0-1.
Mm-hmm.
All right, should we take a brief recess and sign?
Sure.
All right, so we can turn the cameras off. It's boring. right, welcome back. We've had some exciting times signing various documents. What's left on the agenda is reports, administrative matters, minutes, and one other item that was added at the last minute was discuss request for letter of recommendation for the Ashland Upper Charles Trail Committee's grant application. This was added because they made the request today that we provide a letter of support, and the application is due next week, and they need the letter fairly early. They're trying to get all the letters together by Tuesday. That said, our good friend Mr. Morgan sent an email saying that he doesn't think it's an emergency, and if we proceed with this as a item of discussion tonight, he will file an open meeting law violation complaint, and that will end up costing the town money, and the whole point of this is to get money for the town. So that said, there are two options, and so this brings us to future meetings. One option is to have a very quick meeting, and instead of discussing this on camera tonight, we could discuss this sometime for a few minutes downstairs next week and vote to approve the letter. Or I could just send a letter as chairman of the planning board, but it would have more weight if it was sent from the planning board with a vote. If we can get at least 3 of us, perhaps on Monday, we could do that. For reference, I have written a draft of a possible letter. So this is, since we're not going to discuss this tonight, but as a member report, I can bring out this is what I'm.
I have a question. What constitutes an emergency, though? Is there a definition?
I do not know what the legal definition is. So I honestly don't know whether or not he's right or not as to whether we would be wrong to do it tonight. But I don't want to, in the effort to get money for the town, spend money for the town.
And
just
hold it up anyways.
But I also don't like the idea of being held hostage. By
Yeah.
I don't either.
So does this require an open meeting for
Right,
us to do this?
So the
For-
soonest we could post a meeting agenda would be tomorrow morning.
Right, so we could do it on Monday, right? Or could
Ew.
we not do it on Monday?
It would have to be 48 hours.
48 hours of business day hours? Because the weekend doesn't count?
No, it has to be business days.
So that would mean Tuesday.
They're looking for a Tuesday, aren't they?
And Tuesday's the day they want to get it. Well, they may not get it on Tuesday if that's the case, but they can, that is still managed. But anyway, let me read the draft of, just for reference of what I was thinking of saying. It's addressed to the town manager. Dear Mr. Herbert, this letter is to confirm that the Ashland Planning Board strongly supports the creation of the Upper Charles Trail through Ashland. The Planning Board has supported the trail in acquiring easements through critical parcels and has supported the efforts to acquire the eastern portion of the Rail Transit District. Providing trail connectivity is important infrastructure for the town and will provide value to the community going forward. The proposed segment of the trail connecting the MBTA road to Main Street will be a great asset for the community, both in its own right and as a part of the larger trail network. One thing we hear on the planning board with every development is concerns with traffic, especially on Route 135, which parallels this segment to the south. This trail should help residents living downtown commute to the train station and to the middle school. Sincerely, Preston Crowe, Chairman of the Ashland Planning Board. And I would like to, if we can find a time when we can do so, have it also say authorized by a vote of the planning board on such and such a date. So that's what I'm thinking. And the, so we can't, unless we want to spend a lot of lawyers' money, which I don't, discuss this but,
Until we've notified.
if we,
So when's
can
the
find
soonest,
time.
is Tuesday?
And there's no particular time that it needs to be. Tuesday evening is particularly bad for me.
Early, I can make any time Tuesday. But, so Tuesday, if we get it, if we vote on it Tuesday, is that enough time to get it to them and they can?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
29th, that's by the 1st?
Yeah, they're submitting it on the 1st, but they're trying to get everything put together. And I mentioned the segment from the MBTA road to Main Street. The grant is somewhere in the $50,000 to $100,000 range for doing engineering and design, so that we could then hopefully proceed to construction and maybe acquire other funds for construction.
But just to be clear, our letter of support is a general letter of support for the overall trail, what it purports to bring to Ashland, and it's nothing specific to this grant or any specific part of the trail.
It is, the letter that I have specifically references the
section.
part of the section of the trail that the grant is
Yeah.
for, which, let's not discuss this.
Yeah.
But as a member report, since I'm also on the trail committee, I can tell you, is from the MBTA road up to Megunko Road and then on local streets over to Stone Park and Main Street. So everything, once it hits streets, is simply finding ways to repaint things to put the trail as opposed to actually constructing something. So the main construction would be through the portion of that the town is acquiring. So it ties in nicely with the other things we were discussing tonight, but, so could some,
I can make it any time.
how's Tuesday looking for anyone else?
What time?
What if we did Tuesday morning?
What time?
5.
9?
I can't.
8?
You get a 7:30 train out of Dodge.
Oh, okay.
He's out of here by.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
How about you, Phil?
7:30 to 8:30 is like a tricky
What?
school bus
5
time,
o'clock.
but before or after. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm inclined to say that I think it's constitutes an emergency to not lose the chance at $100,000 to make sure all of our ducks are in a row. But
If he's gonna fight it, then we have to.
I'm also inclined to draw a line in the sand. But I can try and make whatever work on Tuesday.
Can we do 9 then?
I can do 9.
9's good.
So 3 people signing
Yeah,
it
3
sufficient?
people is sufficient, because that's a quorum of the board, so.
Sorry, I can't make it.
No, it's fine, I understand.
So put out the
Okay, so
notif-
who's
put out the
available Tuesday at 9 AM?
Phil, Dale, Preston.
Okay.
So we're gonna put a notice in tomorrow for that meeting, so that anybody from the
Yeah.
public who wants to attend that meeting.
Yep.
then
Yep,
that
and it'll be
discussion can do
downstairs.
so.
Probably be short.
Hopefully Steve's there.
So he's obviously concerned. I would expect that he'd be
I would
there.
expect he would be, yeah.
He just didn't want the discussion to be on TV. I don't know. Anyway, that said, we now have our minutes from January 10th.
Mm-hmm. One mistake. I have a date listed as 2018 on page 4, so I'll correct that.
Thank you.
From 2019.
And also, you're gonna send us an email reminding us of the meeting, right? You'll send us an email reminding us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
I've
you.
been up
Yeah,
for
of
like
course.
24 hours straight, I might not remember a lot of what happened tonight.
I subscribe to the planning board calendar on my
I
phone.
have that too.
It used to automatically bring up the agenda even, which was nice, but they changed the
Yeah,
system.
now you have to go look it up. Well, she sends us the agenda and the emails usually.
Yeah.
On the first page, row 37,
Mhm.
did Mr. Herbert explicitly identify the parcel by a specific name that's tied to a zoning map? Or some map somewhere?
I can go back and check.
I mean, like, at a high level, right, we get what this is about, but for somebody reading these minutes for information, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Herbert explains what the zoning allowed for and what was proposed for the site. I don't know. If he was specific, we should try to be specific so that it's clear for posterity.
Okay, I can check that.
If you guys disagree, I can be quiet, but.
Actually, in 41 through 45, it starts
Yeah.
to describe it.
Lot 2.
Yeah.
So if lot 2 is enough to identify it, then we should just
Yeah.
put it in the front
Good.
paragraph. Fine.
If we just said, on line 37, Mr. Herbert explains what the Rail Transit District Lot 2 zoning allowed for,
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
and that clarifies what we're talking about.
That's perfect. Yep. On row 47, page 2, to work toward these goals, the town is in the process of purchasing. Cause it hasn't purchased.
I just say is purchasing?
Sure. Is purchasing
Yeah,
a large portion
that's
of
fair.
lot three. And is seeking a development restriction.
Or is gaining, because it's the belief that that's happening, so is gaining. Just change the tense.
Sure. So it is gaining a development restriction which will preserve green space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Row 48, page 2. Also consider zoning change in lot 2 or to lot 2
Mm-hmm.
to allow.
Yeah, that's good.
I think on 104 and 105 on page 3, you probably want to clarify what you're checking on. The way it reads is that you're checking to see if John is on the butter, rather than whether he has to abstain.
Okay.
Oh, right, yes, thank you. check with town council on legal requirements for abstaining on zoning.
Mm-hmm.
Verify you were there.
But we'll wait on that until we know for sure that we actually have it in front of us. Yeah, till we have something real. So this is just concept.
So worthwhile to note 72, page 2, that the Saturday meeting was a private meeting between the town manager and those residents in question. There's no confusion that it wasn't a public. You know, it's fine. I throw it out there.
Love the train.
Anybody know if UGC presented to the BOS?
I believe they did.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of January 10th as amended?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Right. I think that's all we have tonight, unless there are any other member reports.
If I could ask a question,
Go ahead.
is there any update on the town planner search?
Not as of yet. I don't know anything yet. I believe they're posting the description soon, but beyond that, I don't know.
Well, and I move that we close the meeting at 8:52.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and good